Joining us on this episode is Skillie from Kikitography. Based in South Africa, Skillie has an immensely successful career, having photographed over 600 weddings. From his loads of experience, he's discovered that the most fulfilling space for himself is while shooting a wedding and seeking out the beauty and magic in the small moments and reactions, placing his client's story first above the images that might gain more traction for social media. I'm Kyle Wilson, and this is The Photographer's Problem. I know you're in South Africa. Are you in a major metro area, or are you in a smaller town or township?
I'm in a smaller town. It's a little town called Wellington. So that's in the Western Cape, which is about an hour from Cape Town. And the closest big, well-known town to most people would be Stellenbosch or Paarl. And Stellenbosch is about 35 minutes drive away from Wellington. But yeah, it's nice and small. It's getting busier and busier, and more people from the north of South Africa moving down to the south because they know it's just so good down here. And so it's the small towns are actually rapidly becoming busier and bigger, which sucks a bit, but it's also great for the economy and for the people getting more jobs, more opportunities, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued just because I lived in Seattle and I had a number of my really well-known photographer friends there whom
Yeah.
were not able, even on a very, very successful career, is not able to purchase a home in Seattle because it's so expensive, and they had to move out to the areas within an hour of it, where
Yeah.
Chicago is a much cheaper cost of living, and I have a number of friends here that are able to buy and rent things here. But I'm always intrigued because
Yeah.
photographers, we're not I always tell people, we're not lawyers or doctors. Buying a house and having a Mercedes is not really in the cards for most of us. It's got
No.
to be a little lower stakes.
100%. Yeah, no, listen, to buy property in Cape Town is a whole nother ball game. I don't think uh, that's on the cards for me at all. It's crazy expensive that side. But out in the winelands, it's a bit depending on where you are. Stellenbosch also crazy expensive, but yeah, smaller towns it's very affordable. So it's actually a good time to not to buy if in a smaller town. If you but then you're away like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from everything. So it's weighing up everything. And with the kids, uh, you can't be away too far randomly away. So uh, there's school, sports, traveling, and all of that. Then it gets quite a bit of a mission to travel too far.
Yeah, I feel like I've taken Easy Street for so long because I don't have any kids. I don't own a home. I just have a dog. And throughout the wedding photography career, my first chunk I did with partners and business partners, and I had multiple people. And I realized pretty quickly that there's just not enough money in it to spread out evenly amongst three or four people. Maybe if you
Yeah,
have associates for sure, but not evenly.
yeah,
And now I have a consistent role, which is great, but the idea of trying to jump into home ownership or having kids or any of those other more adult financial responsibilities while
yeah,
trying to book weddings season over season sounds so emotionally stressful.
yeah. 100%. It's definitely a thing. You're actually touching on something that one of the questions that you sent me, like a worst business decision, was for
Oh,
me
let's
specific.
dive into it. Yeah, what was that?
Yeah. Well, I think as a young entrepreneur, you always think on you read all these things. Okay, how do you scale your business, and how do I just make more money and more success out of the whole thing? And I think wedding photography is not really scalable if you do it in a. There's two models, I guess. The one is like if you have a cookie cutter recipe and you just send out 7 or 8 teams, and it's for me personally, it's a bit more of a boring kind of photography. But if you really want to have something unique and create something unique, then it's not really scalable in the sense of sending out 2 teams because people connect with you as a brand, with you and you being your brand. So yeah, I try to scale it to have the 2 teams thing, 3 teams. It's just and it was just not worth it. People were wondering, okay, but why is that person coming to the wedding and why not you? And it was just a whole thing, and people got confused. So I would say that was like the worst decision that I've made. But other than that, I don't think I've made too many bad ones, which is great. Or maybe I'll still find out about the bad decisions I've made. But at this point,
How long did you how long did you have that for? Like how long were you attempting to have either partners or associates under the same brand, and how many, out of curiosity?
yeah, it was two at one point where it would have been the two wedding teams, and then having like two lifestyle teams as well, which was it worked well for a while, but then, like I said, that exactly what I explained happened, and it was about for a year or two, and then I realized, listen, this is gonna create more like tension on the brand and on the business and on myself, so that I'm not going to be able to just do what I love and deliver what I love. So, and then had conversations with everyone, said like, listen, I think you're going to be better off doing this on your own. I'm going to be better off doing this on my own. And yeah, then we all went our separate ways, and still friends with everyone. No hard feelings, but yeah, it's good to.
What kind of results from your clients did you feel after? Was that a tangible thing that you could sense immediately upon wedding delivery and working with clients again on your own versus trying to have these other people under your brand?
Yeah, there was just all of a sudden no confusion. You can immediately, people know that if I book Skillie from Kikitography, Skillie's going to be there, and I don't have to wonder who's going to shoot my wedding. And ultimately, that creates more trust. And in this game that I've played for so long, I've just realized that trust is everything. So if people trust you, they're going to talk about you. And on the other side, that was creating, the opposite of trust. And people like, ooh, I booked this company and they're well known, but like, I don't know who's shooting my wedding. Is this the reliable guy, or is it like the less creative kind of guy? Or, where, who am I going to get? It's like sort of a lucky packet, and lucky packet and trust doesn't go well together. Uh, so yeah, that was what I felt. So it was an immediate change. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like I went through such a similar period because I
Mm.
started kind of on my own, working with as like an employee of a place, and then I came on board somewhere else, in which I quickly became a co-owner along with multiple other people at the same level, so not associate shooters. So I
Yeah.
always thought of the idea of getting associate shooters and shooting under a brand and things like that, but having business partners, my mistakes along the way were finding that like we had a difference in creative direction or a difference in what we want the business to grow as a whole. And when you've
Yeah.
got like two or three men who are trying to kind of uh, bicker battle back and forth between what they want to do, you kind of end up getting this bad cocktail. And so my thing I said pretty quickly afterwards was like doing it on my own and either like getting rid of, killing, whatever I needed to do to the other guys that were there, getting rid of them and doing it on my
Yeah.
own was really one of the better decisions. Obviously, it was a good decision that you separated from having associates, but what's one of your better business decisions that you've made along the way that have gotten you to where you're at now?
Yeah, 100%. Just to latch on to that last bit, you said um, exactly that, the creative vision as well. And it might be small things, but the small things snowball. It's always the small things that catch up at the end of the day. So definitely there were some different ideas of where we will be going, um, how much of the business are we going to share, and all of that. um, and all of a sudden you realize like this, that's not a good idea. You rather, if you don't start it out like that, I think it's not necessarily a great idea. If you set it up from the start, maybe it could be a possibility. So you don't want to shoot down the whole idea, but I think from that point of view, what you just shared, I felt exactly the same kind of frustration. But yeah, I think one of the best business decisions I've made would be trusting my creative process. It's not necessarily, well, it does play out. I think one of the best business decisions that did come from that bad decision, and then just realizing, okay, if I'm on my own, I'm gonna do really well for myself in this, and you have an opportunity to really hone in on that trust factor. But yeah, that really helped you. If you have that, then you have a lot of focus and direction for yourself. So for me, it was just trusting my own creative process, and building my process around what my life looked like. That would be one of my best business decisions. Do not go and follow a certain recipe. People would like to sell you the idea of, like, as an entrepreneur or as a wedding photographer, whatever industry you're in, like, this is the road that you're going to have to take, and this is how you need to set up your day, and this is the kind of workflow you need to have. And in all fairness, we all share that at our workshops. This is what works for us. But I think the most important thing for every person is to find out what works for you in your own life, and do not let your life try to fit in with your work schedule, but that your work schedule fits into your life. So for me, one of the best ways I've dealt with business throughout my whole career was just, I always say, the tools you have at hand are the only ones you have at that stage in your life. So you do your best in the moment, in any case. But I do feel like I've managed to manage my business quite well through the different stages of my career and the different stages of my life, and how those two intertwine with each other. So, like, when the kids were still small and babies, it was a lot more chaotic, but I prioritized that in that time, and I would have had them in my carrier, walking around doing emails on my phone. I think it must be so nice having a baby now with all the Lightroom syncing that you can do on your iPad. I mean, you can edit on your iPad now, but when I had had my first kid, that options weren't available yet. So I think it's way easier to have a baby now and still run your photography business. You could lie down on the bed with your iPad and still edit your pictures. And now, even with narrative, it's even faster. You can just click it on the computer, let it sync, and then you go lie down with the baby and just do the final tweak. So yeah, so that was one thing. And now that they're a bit older, going to school, I've managed to cut my workflow down to really working very well in the first 3 hours of my morning, and when they're at school, and then make sure I get everything done. I actually get way more done now after I have 3 kids, and I get way more done now than I did before I had kids, because I know if I have 3 or 4 hours, I have to make it count. So yeah, then I do my work, and then most of the afternoons I can go and fetch them at school, help them with homework, take them to all their extracurricular activities and sports and all of that, and not feel guilty about wanting to be in front of the computer the whole time and trying to run my business. So it's about setting your priorities and your goals straight. And that's one of my best business decisions, I would say, because the more I feel, the happier I feel, the better I can run a business. But if I constantly feel like I'm not reaching this unrealistic goal that I've set for myself within my life's boundaries, that I chose, obviously, then I'm just going to be unhappy. So I think that's very important, which a lot of people struggle with, from what I've heard, actually, from a lot of photographers as well. That you have to, I have to post 3 times a day on Instagram. How do I find the time to do that? I have to edit so much on a day. I have to do all these emails. I have to plan, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on and on. But we're setting such unrealistic expectations on ourselves. And yeah, so the moment I started feeling that freedom, that was amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think something that happens in this industry a lot is that usually people come from some other kind of a job or career or something with a boss, something
That's
with
true. Yeah.
standard operating procedures, and they really try to bring a bunch of social rules into their business. And something I've pushed back on that a few times was that it's yours, it's mine. I can do anything I want with it. I can market myself locally, globally, to this kind of person, that kind of person, this kind of work, that kind of work, this price, that price. And if I wanted someone to come in and tell me how to do it, I would just go get a job again with a boss, and they could tell
Yeah.
me how to do it. And that touches into this like work life balance thing, which I'm really passionate about. I definitely had my own era of this career where it engulfed my personality, and it felt like I was very, all my happiness and all my value lived in one lane, and it was just my work. And to find that balance by saying, you know what, I don't need to do what everyone else is doing. I don't need to work at
Yeah.
the same pace everyone else is doing. I don't even need to create the same kind of work everyone else is doing. I just need to do what's best for Kyle in the same way that you're doing what's best for Skilly. And ultimately, like you said, trusting your creative process and creative thought. I'd be interested to press on you and say, what does, because it's really easy to say, trust your creative process, but what does that look like tangibly for you where you might hesitate or question yourself and then go, you know what, actually, I have to trust my creative gut. This is a good decision. I have evidence backing that my decisions have made great progress to where I am now. How does that play out in real time?
Okay. Yeah. Well, creative process has obviously got a lot of legs that you can discuss. But firstly, I think of maybe we should speak more like career, the process of your career as one section and start there. Like, when you start out as a wedding photographer, well, the time that I started, like you were looking at people like Jonas Peterson and everyone traveling, doing these insane destination weddings and like these luxurious weddings, and you sort of feel like that's where I need to be. And until I reach that point, I'm not successful, or until I've traveled X, Y, and Z, I'm not really a successful wedding photographer. And that amount of pressure that you put on yourself is once again ridiculous. And that's what I did. I pushed myself so hard to try and be that. And I did all of that. And then when I did it, it felt empty. And then I was like, well, this sucks. This doesn't really make me happy. This isn't where I'm. Well, I thought there's going to be a great like rainbow with a pot of gold here, but that like really wasn't there. So that's one part of it. And then I started saying to myself, like, why are you doing this? Why and why do you put that kind of wedding above another kind of wedding? A wedding 5 minutes from home, a couple with a bit of a lower budget. Everything is not as it's not these ridiculous floral arrangements. It's just one candle, one flower on the table, but the people there are golden, and they're having this incredible wedding, and I can just capture these people and capture the memories for them. And once I started making that move, everything changed for me. So that was the creative process for me when I just started loving what I do not love the idea of what I should be doing, but actually loving what I do. To When I'm in that moment and you capture that smile, that person reacting to something beautiful happening, when my heart started feeling like, oh yes, this is what I should be doing, and then you get that mails back from people and saying like, oh my goodness, Skillie, I don't know how you managed to literally capture all of these emotions and capture all my favorite people together. And then I never get mails back saying, oh, wow, you captured the location so well. Oh, the flowers looked exquisite. Or, it was the most insane decor I've ever seen. The most beautiful. This should definitely be in a magazine. Like, I don't get mails like that. And because that's not what makes me happy. What makes me happy is hearing that people are actually like, you captured my people, and this means everything to us because like how often do you have all your loved ones in one room? And once I just started following that, and I started following it hard, and it just made me happier and happier and happier. And that's what I mean with my creative process, in the sense of, actually, at the end of the day, it's about photography. That's what we're doing. All of the other stuff is business, things, editing and all of that. It's something that comes with it, but the actual job is clicking away and doing that, and you have to find the joy in that. So I found that again, and it hasn't stopped since I've discovered that. And yeah, I think that comes with a lot of introspection, with people really need to figure out, why am I shooting and who am I shooting for? So I started changing that up. If I can unpack that about the creative process, it's like, it's not uh, what I'm shooting for, but who am I shooting for? And it's like, I'm like, first of all, I'm shooting for the people, and that should make me happy. And those two in my story just work together well, and that made sense for me. And when it comes to the other things of running a business, I just believe in, once again, I want to spend quality time with my family, with my wife, with my kids, with my friends, and you have to find that's priority for me. And if that's a priority for me, I have to figure out what tools can I use when I'm not shooting, to make it easier for myself and for them, so that they don't feel like, oh, dad's working the whole time, or my husband's away the whole time, or my husband's working the whole time. So you've got to find that. So that's and I started trusting myself a lot more in these things, and not putting stupid you know goals in my mind that I know it's not achievable, or stupid Instagram goals that you should have. Just let that go.
I think that something that was said a lot, and I'm not sure our career paths here, but I'm going to assume you were at the time when this quote came up a lot, which was to finding the ideal client.
Yeah,
And I think that worked for that particular narrative that was going on, trying to be a very famous, successful destination wedding or a photographer.
yeah,
And something I've said in the last few years, and I'm sure I'm not the person that coined this by any means, but I like the idea of being the ideal photographer. And for
yeah,
me, that looks like there's certain weddings that I've been to, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the client. There's nothing wrong with their love, their day, or anything, but I'm
yeah,
not the perfect match for them. And somehow that wedding came to be, and now I'm there. And it's way better, both from a moral standpoint, ethics standpoint, as well as just my life enjoyment, because again, we choose to do this job versus working
yeah,
somewhere else. That I get to work on days that it's kind of like dating, we really line up. Like me and this client, we're vibing, we're
yeah,
jamming. Like it doesn't really matter about the floral, it doesn't matter where their wedding is, and we're really connecting. And I've gone through as every photographer does. You've kind of got your website and your verbiage and your copy and everything designed a certain way to try to find your perfect person. As you've navigated away from trying to chase after, or for lack of a better phrase, but chase after people like Jonas Peterson or whomever, have you change the way that you articulate your brand presence, that would be from your Instagram to your website to the photos you choose to the copy that you have on there, to say, hey, I'm seeking couples that make me want to love my job versus just couples that are going to give me a really pretty wedding day that's going to do good on Instagram.
yeah. 100%. You know, on your side, well done for doing that as well. For actually making that move and trying to be the ideal photographer. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you have to. Uh, you're the photographer. You work with light. You've got to be able to work with any kind of lighting situation. You've got to be able to work with any kind of person. And I also found it so monotonous if you have to find the ideal client. It's how long are you going to be able to do that? You're going to shoot for two seasons, and then you're going to be bored out of your mind. Every wedding's going to look the same. So that's part of the whole mind shift that you did like it's actually exciting. You don't know what you're going to get. And when you get to a wedding day, it's like, oh, wow, this is cool. Or this is interesting. Um, let's see how this day is going to end. And it just creates that excitement of, you have a whole blank canvas in front of you every time you get to a wedding, and you chuck all those shot lists away of, I have to do this to get onto blog X or blog Y, and it's just for them, and that makes it so beautiful to me. um, I got carried away now. What did you ask me? Sorry.
Oh, I would be interested. I think that my question is the tangible changes you did, because we can sit and talk amongst ourselves or with other photographers about wanting to be this, but at
Yeah,
some point we have to go on our website and change the way we market to
yeah,
clients and weed out the right ones and the wrong ones. I would be interested as to what you tangibly did to start
yeah.
navigating away from A and towards B.
Yes, 100%. Okay, got you. So yes, I definitely started speaking differently about myself, and definitely the copy and all of that, and the websites, and on Instagram as well. Like, you don't want to, if you go onto and that was always the goal, like, if I think back, uh, even 6 7 years ago, it was just like, I need to get that money shot. That's going to be the first shot of the carousel. And if people go onto my Instagram or onto my website, they're going to be like, hell yes, this guy can shoot in a great destination. He knows his light, and booking, we're going to book him right there and then, just based on the first 9 or 18 images you see on your Instagram. Beautiful couple shots, great locations. And at the end of the day, sorry, but those things don't matter. Uh, it really doesn't matter in the bigger picture. They maybe not. That's a nice shot for you, and the irony is something that I've seen when people download their galleries. The couple photos aren't even their favorite ones. They are the last ones they download. It's the one with the dad, or the one with the friend, or the one crying, or the one with the little kid. Those are the images the first ones they download. Those are the ones they care about. So yeah, I started just really thinking about, what am I going to post when I'm on Instagram, and to try and tell a little story within 10 images. And really also, you can showcase that, yeah, I can take a nice portrait of a couple, but these days anybody can do that. So what's going to make it different? Am I really able to capture emotion? So I really try to tell the story through emotion, or through uh, yeah, even composition is not that important to me when it comes to the way I market to my clients. Although I love a good composition, my I've had a lot of conversations with photographers about this, and they're like, yeah, they hate it that Instagram is like, people are cropping their images like this. And I like, you know what, people don't care about composition, to be honest. They just care about their people being captured. um, if I look at the photos my friends share on Facebook, it's shitty photos, but it's it's their people in it, and they really love those photos. They print those photos. Those are their memories that they have for generations. So just show by the tangible that I did is showcasing what really matters. And when I speak about these things, I tell people this is what really matter. At my workshops, I teach photographers that, the photos are honestly a secondary thing that you need to worry about. It's the energy you bring to the wedding. It's the energy you give to the couples. It's your ability to shift the energy in a room. If it's filled with drama, bring it back to chaos. Bring it back to joy and to calmness. Uh, don't feed on the chaoticness, and just bring people back to what matter. Uh, Life is short, and we need to show people how beautiful it is. And that's what I've been trying to do, whether that's through a simple smile of a child, or a simple picture of a flower in beautiful light. And that's what I've done, and I've just been doing it consistently for a lot of time, and people are seeing that. You can also say a lot on your Instagram. You can say a lot on your website. A lot of people love saying that, oh, I'm a storytelling photographer, but meanwhile they don't know anything about capturing a story. It's just using a buzzword, uh, and that's just not gonna get you far at the end of the day. People see right through that bullshit if you tell them you're a storytelling photographer, but you go onto their website or their Instagram, and it's just posed photos over and over again. So uh, honestly, just being consistent in doing what you do, in actually being a storyteller, made a difference for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly evidenced by your Instagram, which I was looking at prior, and I've also been scrolling. It's on my side screen here as we've been talking. And
Yeah.
it's so, one of the things I love about this industry is that you and I capture very similar parts of the same kind of a wedding day, and your choice for what you share is exactly what you're speaking about. Is it's smiling photos and laughing grandmas and all these moments of the people at the wedding, the people that traveled near or far to be there, the people that the client who's paying you to be there want, really ultimately they want photos of everyone that's there, ideally,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of client that you, the kind of photographer you want to be and the client that you want to book.
Yeah.
And inversely, if you were to look through my page, you would see photos that are really inspired by cinema. I'm a movie
Yeah.
dork, and I love anything that feels like it's a screen grab from a movie. And it's funny because I don't get those emails too often about, like, I see sometimes photographers will share their like great client emails, and they're these long books, people are crying. I actually don't really get too many of those either, and it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of the work that I do love to photograph happens to not maybe be as emotionally receptive, or maybe not in that way. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing about this industry is that you can be someone like you who really wants to focus on these things and get this fulfillment of it, or inversely, you can be someone who wants to focus on some other portion of the day. And I think just scrolling through your Instagram back a few hundred weeks, just to like, I always really love seeing how a photographer changes by scrolling back a few years and then kind
Yeah.
of looking back and forth between the two. I can really see it's so clear that you found the pieces of a wedding day that really affect you positively for yourself. And I have to imagine having a family and having kids really plays into that too. Then you just continue to refine and refine and refine. And I can see how you started the idea of it. And just looking at your most recent work and recent way that you're sharing, it's you've really expanded on that. And I think it's so great. I'd be interested to know, kind of the chase of the title of this podcast, but what's your problem? What do you feel that you're working on now and trying to evolve moving forward? Because it seems like what you've got going on is pretty sweet, pretty like right in the pocket of what you wanted to change and now have actively changed, which is huge. Not everyone can do that. And I'm stoked to know you as a photographer and see that you've been able to do that. But I'd be interested, what's next?
Yeah. That's interesting. That's always the question that's lurking around, right? What's next? Um, I to share a bit more uh, of a personal story of, like what's influencing the work. And I think, like you say, like we always somehow put a little bit of who we are into what we do as artists. If it's not like that, it's a bit strange. So with you creating more of a cinematic kind of feel, people won't necessarily, like you said, like give you this long essay of, this is, you had me in tears, or kind of thing. Movies don't always do that. Only the people that that reviewing them are writing about it so in such a long matter. But mostly people would just be like, wow, or oh my gosh, that's all they get out from cinematic kind of things. And the essay happens inside, which is beautiful. So it's this. it's just creativity and art is just incredible, actually, in the ways that it can communicate with people both verbally and non-verbally. So, but yeah, from my side, I went through a very painful divorce in about 5 years ago, and that influenced my work a lot, which was strange. I sort of started latching onto those really happy moments a lot. And I sort of searched for that so much, and I started capturing that. So my a great heartbreak actually opened my eyes for life's smallest joys, which was amazing. And I just honed in on that a lot on the last few years. So, like you said, I've then and as I've healed myself and everything started coming back together by actively really working on it. Um, all of all of my work stuff sort of just fell into place, and I just, like you said, I felt that rhythm and I found the sweet spot. And when you asked me, like, what's my problem, I was like, this is an interesting question. You really evoked something. Like, I mean, I really have to think about what's my problem. Life is really actually pretty good right now. Work is good, family is good, and everything just feels incredible. But from a work point of view, I would say the small things that I'm working on is just how can I even further elevate that client experiences that I'm offering people, reading people a bit better. I find it extremely interesting of working with different kinds of personalities, and sometimes I feel like, or most of the time, I feel like I actually am really able to connect with any kind of personality, uh, whether they come across as a hard ass or as someone that's completely different to me. I still find a way to connect with them and to leave a day feeling like we actually could have been friends. But here and there, there's still some people who are like, "Ooh, this was an interesting one." So the more I can understand of people, the better. So I read a lot on that. Um, I'm very interested in psychology. I actually studied that while I was still a student. And so I'm interested in picking up on that again and really see how that influences my work life. Once again, focusing on my personal life and what makes me happy uh, always finds its way into your work and your creative process. So yeah, I mean, just by being present, uh, problems do come along the way and you get to solve them. So, to be just completely honest, I don't have a massive problem right now when it comes to my work, and it's small things that, for me, it's just smoother, making the systems even smoother, and just being as present as possible and in every part of the creative process where I am, and whether that is trying to uh, easing easy up on my workload, time management, all of those kind of things. Trying to have a more focused time frame on how much do I use social media, all of that kind of stuff. Like, where does that fit in? So that's the small problems. But like we said just in the beginning of the podcast, small things become big things. So if you don't look after the small things, they do become big things. So yeah, that's what I would say. What would you say is one of your biggest problems, Kyle?
Um, I'm supposed to ask the questions here, Skilly. Come on. I First of all, that's amazing. I think it's so great that you don't have to have a big problem with going on. I think when you're early in your career, you do a bunch of these big swings, and
Yeah.
at your current stage, it's pretty amazing that you're diving deeper into the reflection that you are able to connect with anyone. Again, I do think that booking wedding clients is a little like dating, and it's sort of that: am I fun or am I having fun? And
Yeah,
similarly with your clients, am I enjoying this experience or am I just enjoyable? Do I just work with everyone? And
yeah,
to kind of further hone into that to identify what kind of people you want to work with. For me, I have been photographing weddings full time for 10 years, give or take. And I recently photographed potentially my last couple of weddings this season, actually, and which feels pretty nice. They might not, I might not have a wedding in the books in the future. And if that comes, that's awesome. But for now, it's being more intentional with my work. I've always been in a really privileged position that creating really beautiful work comes pretty easy to me. That's my dad was a photographer. It's just like kind of in my muscle memory of how to make a good photo.
yeah,
But because it comes pretty easy, I kind of tend to cut a lot of corners and do it pretty lazily. And I've wondered for a while now what my portrait and artwork would look like if I quote unquote gave a shit
yeah,
and tried and actually put rather than just show up to a room with a person and a camera, shoot some stuff, deliver it in a gallery 6 months later and call it a
yeah.
day. What would it look like if I went in with the concept and actually executed upon it and experimented with things I'm not good at, like studio lighting,
Amazing.
and put it on paper and then put it on a wall and tried to sell it somewhere in a
Yeah,
gallery to people who might like it or not. And so,
yeah,
both for financial reasons, I'd love to see another 10 grand a year in the bank for just taking photos that I think with weddings, you're forced to, it is my Saturday. Weddings are my
yeah,
Saturday. Like it's nice to not do that anymore. And you're
yeah,
forced to go take photos in an environment that you have very little control over ultimately. And to flip that narrative and be able to go make whatever photos I want, anything that just scratches my little heart, well, then I can go do that, and maybe I can turn that into something that people will still connect with and or think it, even if people just think it's cool.
yeah.
Cool. Is it cool if you'll buy it, put it on your wall, and give me money so that I can go order pizza?
Exactly.
That would be a great goal. If I could just make anything I want and it paid for some pizza and my rent, I'd be stoked. So but having a jobby job where I have a career or a job where I don't have to hustle and photograph things anymore
Yeah,
necessarily makes it more difficult because I do this Monday through Friday. And then, well, on the weekend, I probably want to ride my bike with my friends. I don't want to
yeah,
go make more photos because every time I click the button, I'm giving future me a task to deal
yeah,
with later, and that makes me it actually pulled me away from photographing things now, and it's actually kind of a struggle where I go, what's the perfect formula for this? Is it a point and shoot film camera, but then it's expensive film? Is it my phone? Is it just not doing anything at all? Is it another Leica? Is it intentional shooting? What scratches the itch without making me annoyed at it later?
yeah, yeah.
And so that's my problem. And I've been saying this exact sentence for about a year or two
Yeah.
now. So I'm yet to come up with an answer for it.
I could give my 2 cents if you want to hear it, but uh,
I'll take all your cents.
okay, I don't have a lot. It's off season in South Africa, um, but listen, yeah, something that I always say to people is it once again everything boils down to consistency, um, and sitting down and doing something when you don't feel like it is sometimes not sometimes it's hard all the time, but the fruit you get from it at the end of the day really does taste really sweet. So it's like you can speak to any writer, and they'll tell you like most of the days they just hate sitting down and writing, and then there's a few days far and in between that they really like, okay, I can't stop, I'm just going and I'm just feeling it, but they sort of force themselves to at least for 1 hour a day just write, and a lot of it that they are writing is terrible, um, you might have one golden sentence out of 1 hour of writing, some days not. And then the worst of times is when you do that for 2 weeks and you're still not finding any gold. um, and it really sucks, but it's consistency in doing something like that. So, and you just have to, at the end of the day, I believe everything boils down to time management and carving out. If you really want something, and something that really matters, is going to be really tough, and you're going to be have to really dig deep for that. And yeah, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. It's hard work always pays off, no matter what kind of work you're doing, um, and it comes with a lot of challenges. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'm
very much
excited to
so
see what you're
how
going to do.
to. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's very much so, and I think in either side of the industry, personal work or professional paid work, is how to carry the momentum of excitement. And for me, and I
Yeah,
mean, many people like I have ADHD. I get excited for a little bit and then I'm bored. And I'm really excited about an idea, and I go and I photograph it, and then I get
yeah,
home and I look at the photos for a few minutes, and then they sit there for a month. The excitement is gone,
yeah,
and it goes from passion to work. And like you said, it's waking up every day and saying, hey, this is continually something that is scratching the back of my brain, but I'm not able to like execute upon it, and so I must do something for it. And if I'm being really honest, I think one of mine is external validation. I really like external validation. I've rejected it for a while because I thought it was a bad thing, but it's okay. They talk about it
yeah,
in Rick Rubin's The Creative Act,
yeah,
where external validation is good for some people and not necessary for others, and it's not a bad or a good thing. And I like that, and I think that if I were to put a show together and put all this work together and pay thousands of dollars to put images on the wall and rent a space, and people were to come in and really like it, I would probably feel really good for 6 or 7 minutes, and that would probably
yeah,
be totally worth it to me. And so it's just doing the work and saying, hey,
yeah,
is that the course I want to take, or do I want to just work my job and ride my bicycle? So
yeah.
it's very up in the air, but I I think you're totally right with either side of our industry. It's just the work every day and putting it in, and the the juice is worth the squeeze, but it's going to take a while.
100%. I do think like our generation is sort of, we have an expectation of, you have to have a job where everything's exciting all the time, um, which is not real. Which I think, which both of us have been doing something for long enough and being an adult for long enough that you realize, like, listen, that's fairy tale land. If you think you're going to have an enjoyable work environment every single day, um, even, I sit here with uh, my bread buttered at both sides, like where I'm privileged to be doing what I'm doing and really having an incredible lifestyle of choosing my own time and doing whatever I want to do. But it's still not great every day. I still have, it still, sometimes it really sucks editing. Most of the time, it sucks sitting in front of Lightroom or responding to emails. But at the end of the day, it's just that's what it does make me happy. It really does, and I know I'm gonna hate it if I have to work for someone and write reports to them on something that I don't necessarily care about, and I make good money to support my family and live a good life. So, sort of just, I have had these questions that come up a lot in my adult life, where you like, is it worth it? Is it like really worth it? But like at the end of the day, if I really dig deep, and I say to myself, yes, it is. There's nothing else that's gonna make me as happy as that is. So, and yeah, that's my greatest wish for our generation, is to just discover that sometimes we need to sit on our asses and work. Um, and for the next ones, and to not sell ourselves a world where we're gonna enjoy working 90% of the time, because I don't think it's a realistic expectation to have. I think we should just better manage our days. We can still work and say, for instance, maybe like we do have all the tools available to us. Say like maybe we can have an enjoyable work environment for like 3 hours, and then we're going to have an enjoyable social life for 3 hours, and just space it out a bit differently than previous generations maybe did. But it is possible. We're just figuring out. We are in a very unique time and era in humanity, where we have to figure out how these things work and how we're going to combine being human within a new context. So yeah, it's interesting times.
Man, Skillie, you're really insightful, and I really appreciate your time today. This has been really great just hearing about what I love hearing anybody that's managing their work life balance in this job. And it sounds like you've been doing an excellent job of that for a really long time.
Thank you
And I
so much,
appreciate you
man.
sharing your insights today. And this has been just so great to hear just more about how you're evolving as a photographer in kind of the middle of your career. And I'm really excited to see how that continues to flourish and what kind of work that you get to what kind of work that you continue to create that makes you excited. And I think that's going to make anyone that looks at your work or books you excited too.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what's coming next and what problems will arise and how I'm going to solve them. And yeah, thank you so much for your time too, Kyle. It's been great chatting to you, and also getting to know you a bit better. Next time, I want to be asking you some questions. I'm curious to learn even more. So yeah, thank you so much
I'm certain we can
for your
arrange
time.
that.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, Gillian.
Fantastic. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.